He walked in like he was late to his own red carpet. Blue tailored suit, watch too shiny for a garage, teeth too white for a man who hadn't worked a single shift under a lift. The name was Colby, our new operations director, introduced by corporate like he was going to bring us into the future, whatever the hell that meant. My name's Monica. I'm 39, based out of Glendale, Arizona. I've run back-end operations at Prescott Performance Garage for 13 years, long enough to know when someone's faking it. Colby made a beeline straight for the diagnostics wall like it was his personal stage. That wall's got 3 custom-built engine analyzers and a proprietary sync between powertrains and onboard firmware. You don't mess with it unless you've got the manuals memorized and grease under your nails. But there he was, standing there with one hand on his chin like he was admiring fine art. "Impressive," he said. "Love the modular setup. We'll be able to streamline this in no time." Quick note before we go further. Before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. The mechanics behind me glanced at each other. I caught Margot giving Samir the look. We all knew the diagnostics wall wasn't modular. It was custom as hell, and temperamental. Then Colby turned and offered me his hand. Weak grip, corporate cologne, smile like he practiced it in the mirror every morning. "You must be Monica," he said. "Can't wait to optimize your workflows." I didn't smile. "Sure, welcome to the pit." He walked around like he owned the place. "You know, this place has great energy, but I can already tell we're dealing with a lot of outdated processes. That's all right. My plan is to strip back what's unnecessary and get things leaner. No offense." He turned to the team. "I'm all about efficiency. Less clutter, clearer roles, streamlined systems." Margot folded her arms. Samir raised an eyebrow. Jacob kept typing, but his smirk was loud. I nodded slowly. "You mean removing the stuff you don't understand?" Colby chuckled. "You've got a good sense of humor." "You're a peacock doing a welder's job," I said, flat. He blinked, then smiled wider. "I like the culture here. Honest feedback. That's healthy." The man didn't even flinch. He kept strutting, talking about data pipelines and diagnostic clouds like it meant something. But I saw it. He didn't get it. Not one bit. The guy was here to pose and disrupt. I'd seen the type. So I grabbed my clipboard, followed him into the bay, and started watching. Every word, every move. He wanted a performance garage without knowing what makes it perform. And I don't play nice when someone threatens the system I built. By the end of his second week, Colby started floating around the shop like a cruise director. He wasn't checking systems or reading reports, just strolling through the bays, tossing out nonsense. "I love the vibes in here," he told Samir, who was elbow deep in a hybrid transmission rebuild. "You guys have great team spirit." Samir didn't even look up, just said, "Cool," and kept working. Colby kept going. "It's like, this shop has heart, you know? That's rare in this industry." I had to step away before I rolled my eyes hard enough to sprain something. Then he came for my diagnostics dashboard, walked right into my corner office, leaned over my shoulder like we were old friends. "Okay, this right here," he said, pointing at my primary sync view. "This is amazing stuff, but it's just a lot. You think we could simplify this? Dumb it down a little for everyone?" I looked at him. "Everyone who?" "You know, non-tech staff, executives, people like me." I turned back to my screen. "That's why you have me." "Still," he said, not moving, "it'd help alignment if we had something more plug and play. Maybe a dashboard that just shows red or green. No squiggly graphs." "That's waveform data. Those squiggly graphs tell me if a $500,000 car is about to throw a piston into the stratosphere." Right, he said, still smiling like he was talking to a waitress about the specials. "I'm just saying, let's make it friendly." I didn't answer, just saved my config copy and closed the tab. Then came the kicker. A few days later, I got a calendar update. Colby had canceled our quarterly engine failure drill. No explanation, just not needed. Focus on real tasks. I walked straight to his office. "You canceled the drill?" I asked, flat. He didn't even look up from his laptop. "Yeah, felt alarmist. We've never had a real system failure, have we?" "That's because we do the drills." "Exactly, waste of bandwidth. Let's not burn people out on imaginary problems." I stared at him. My heart was steady, but I felt the temperature drop inside me. So that night, I stayed 2 hours late, updated every protocol. rewrote the emergency chain, and recoded the failsafe mirror to respond without visual alert. If he wanted silence, I'd give him silence. And I started logging every meeting, every decision, every shortcut he greenlit. I archived timestamps and email threads. Even casual hallway instructions got logged with context. He wasn't just a problem, he was a liability. The kind that looked great on a stage and cratered everything behind it. The mechanics started noticing too. You could feel it. Jacob stopped asking Colby questions during tech reviews. Margot started keeping printed logs again, just in case. Samir, who usually cracked jokes during lunch, got real quiet when Colby entered the break room. But no one said anything out loud, not yet. I didn't feed the fire either. I stayed professional, silent. On paper, nothing changed. I smiled when he came around, nodded when he gave feedback, even took notes during his weekly pulse check meetings, which were just him talking about optimizing culture fit. But behind my login screen, I was building a second layer: off-site redundancy, manual access keys, safety triggers embedded deep in the maintenance scheduler, all invisible unless you knew what you were looking for. Because I did know what was coming. The problem with guys like Colby wasn't that they made mistakes. It was that they never believed they could. And when things cracked, they panicked, blamed systems, blamed people. I'd seen it before. Corporate hires who didn't know what a blown capacitor looked like but wanted to disrupt operations. Same script, different cologne. I updated my folder labels, renamed one archive, Colby Impact Log. I didn't share it, not yet. He wanted vibes, I gave him quiet. He wanted a dumbed-down system, fine. I made sure the smart one could still run without him. Then I closed out my shift, shut down my station, and walked the floor one more time, checking every bay, every screen, every plug. I didn't trust him to see what mattered, so I made damn sure I did. A week later, Colby called a budget review meeting, said it was just a light touch base, so only department leads needed to show. That meant me, Margot, Samir, and Jacob. He walked in with a laptop under one arm and a bottle of sparkling water in the other like he was running a tech startup, not a performance garage. Sat down at the head of the table and jumped right in. All right, folks, he said, I've got some really exciting cost-saving ideas that are going to streamline the shop without sacrificing quality. I didn't say anything, just opened my notepad and waited for the punchline. So first up, backup batteries. He clicked something on his screen, turned it toward us. Every diagnostic bay has its own redundant battery system, right? That's, 8 units? That's 8 maintenance cycles, 8 inventory lines, 8 costs. Samir squinted. You want to remove them? Exactly, Colby said, smiling like he just solved poverty. Let's consolidate power redundancy. Maybe one central backup, tied into the facility. UPSI froze. You're talking about cutting the bay level systems. Colby nodded. They're overkill. I leaned forward. Do you even know why we have those? Sure, he said. Worst case scenarios. But look, the power here hasn't gone out in years. My jaw clenched. 7 years ago, Phoenix lost grid power for 8 hours. Transformer fire. We were the only shop that stayed operational. You know why? Because of those exact batteries. Colby waved a hand. Monica, I get it, but we're running a business, not prepping for Armageddon. I glanced at Samir and Margot, both stone-faced. He laughed. Come on, folks. It's like carrying a spare parachute for a road trip. Nobody laughed. I didn't say another word. Just circled the item in my notebook and marked the date. That night, I opened my archive log and started a new folder. Battery Protocol Rollback. I downloaded the meeting recording, took screenshots of his slides, archived the budget doc he shared. I labeled everything with timestamp, location, attendees. I even flagged the joke. That one was going to matter. The next few days, you could feel the mood change. Margot stopped putting on music in the diagnostics room. Samir started bringing his own torque tools from home, said he didn't want to rely on shared systems anymore. Jacob didn't speak unless someone asked him a direct question. People still did their jobs, but the rhythm was off. Trust was bleeding out, one proposal at a time. Meanwhile, Colby strutted through the floor like nothing was wrong. Called it transitional friction. I kept quiet, professional, respectful, always with my clipboard, always logging. Then I went deeper. I dug into our compliance documentation, the boring legal stuff nobody read unless they had to. Found a clause I'd helped write back in 2016 when we transitioned systems after a merger. I added a subclause, buried under a general systems access section, reworded it carefully, added legal approved syntax. It effectively gave me the right to move core system access keys into a protection vault if operational security or continuity were compromised by a non-technical executive's decisions. It was airtight, unflashy, invisible to anyone not specifically looking for it. I activated the clause and locked the core diagnostic access behind it. The keys were now part of a compliance escrow, requiring board-level override to change. Nobody noticed, nobody looked. That's the thing about people like Colby. They assume the people beneath them aren't capable of outmaneuvering them. I was done playing catch-up. Let him kill backups. Let him crack jokes about spare parachutes. I'd built this system to withstand mechanical failure, fire damage, even natural disasters. Now I was building it to survive him. And while he stood in the hallway, pitching another workflow enhancement to some poor intern, I walked straight back to my terminal and clicked Save on the new key protocol. No announcements, no warnings. Just quiet insurance, in case the clown decided to burn the tent down. An Outlook alert popped up on my screen. Efficiency check, mandatory attendance. 30-minute block, no agenda. Sent by Colby. The invite list made my stomach go cold. HR, 3 junior techs, and me. No Samir, no Margot, no Jacob. I showed up 5 minutes early. HR was already in the corner with a legal pad. The 3 juniors, barely out of trade school, sat stiff in metal chairs. Colby came in last, holding coffee like it was a prop. "Thanks for making time," he said, all smiles. "This is just a quick alignment check on resource use and internal systems." Super casual. Bullshit. He stood in front of the whiteboard and clicked a slide open on the screen behind him. My dashboard. "This," he said, pointing at my interface, "is what we inherited. Complex, siloed, very old school." I didn't blink, just watched him. He switched slides. "These systems are custom-coded, hard to onboard, and frankly, overbuilt. There's no clean way to scale this. It's brilliant, sure, but it's also expensive. Inflexible, resource-heavy." The HR rep scribbled something down. One of the juniors looked at his shoes. Colby kept going. "When you've got a Ferrari engine in a food truck, you don't brag about the horsepower. You ask why it's there in the first place." No one laughed. He didn't care. He turned toward me like he was about to hand me a participation ribbon. "Monica, what you've built is impressive, but it's also very tied to you. That's a liability. If we lost you tomorrow, we'd have no map." Still, I said nothing. Didn't nod. Didn't flinch. "And that's why I've been thinking," he said, pausing like he wanted applause. "We need systems that can outlive any one operator. That's how we grow. That's modernization." I glanced at HR. She wouldn't meet my eye. "I know this might sound harsh," Colby added, "but it's time to bring the shop out of the shadows and into the light." That's when I knew. This wasn't a check-in. This was a performance, and I was the prop. So I stood up, nice and calm. Colby froze for half a second, just long enough to show the crack. "I'll let you finish with the kids," I said. "Looks like I've already been benched." I walked out without looking back. Made it down the hall, past diagnostics, past Colby's stupid wellness posters, straight to my desk. The same desk I'd used to rebuild our intake sync system after the 2018 server crash. The same terminal where I'd debugged the onboard firmware sync during a live client handoff. The same chair I'd been sitting in when the city lost power and we didn't. I sat down, logged in, and opened the protocol shell. The clause was buried 2 levels deep in compliance. Took 10 seconds to find. 3 clicks to authorize. My fingerprint scan, my company-issued token, final confirmation, custody trigger activated. From that point forward, the garage's diagnostic control system, every base sync, every firmware tool, every heartbeat monitor, now required board approval to unlock. Not Colby, not HR, not anyone on the floor, just the board. And they wouldn't even know until it failed. I closed the terminal, powered down my station, and leaned back in my chair. Let him cut. Let him call me a relic. Let him smile for HR and spit buzzwords all over the whiteboard. He'd just gutted the one person who knew where the bones were buried, and I'd just taken the brain of the shop and put it behind bulletproof glass. I was finishing up my final log entry of the day when Colby strolled into diagnostics like he owned the air in the room. He stopped in front of the primary sync console, hands on hips, fake curiosity written all over his face. Margot and Samir were mid-check on a twin-turbo V8 install. Jacob was calibrating Bay 4's analyzer. I kept my eyes on my screen. Colby leaned forward and tapped the console display with 2 fingers. This thing lights up like my kid's nightlight. Everyone stopped. The only sound was the low whine of the intake fan behind us. Margot straightened up slowly. Samir froze, socket wrench in hand. Jacob didn't move at all. Colby laughed to himself. I mean, seriously, it's cute, right? All these blinking lights? It's like we're pretending to be NASA. He thought he was being clever, that he was connecting with us. But that joke landed like a brick in a windshield. That system, those blinking lights, kept 7-figure machines from turning into lawsuits. It saved every one of our asses daily. I didn't say a word, just closed my laptop. Margot turned back to the engine without a sound. Samir didn't even acknowledge the man. Jacob slowly reached up and powered down the display he'd been working on, not saying a thing. I stood, unhooked my badge from my lanyard, and slid it into my pocket. Colby wasn't done. We're carrying too much legacy noise, he said, pacing like he was giving a TED Talk. I've looked at the system maps. These mirrored servers, all this duplication, it's just clutter. I'm authorizing a cleanup this week. I turned to face him. You're shutting down the mirrors. He smiled. Exactly. We're centralizing ops. Single path, cleaner, easier to manage. Samir opened his mouth, then closed it. Jacob shot me a glance. Margot clenched her jaw and looked back down at the engine block. You're sure about that? I asked, voice flat. Absolutely. That's the kind of leadership this place needs. I nodded. Got it. I didn't argue. I didn't warn him. I just walked to my desk, packed my charger, and shut the laptop. No drama, no speech. Just done. Let him do it. Let him pull the plug on the very thing holding this shop together. He wanted centralized ops? Okay. He wanted to kill the mirrors? Fine. The second he confirmed it, the passive failure triggers started counting down. No beeps, no pop-ups, nothing dramatic. Just time-coded scripts, pre-sequenced to let the system rot quietly from the inside. I had written every single line of that code, tested it twice, had legal approve the compliance framework myself. They wouldn't notice at first, that was the point. It would hum along, business as usual. Diagnostics would run, bays would sync, logs would fill, until they didn't. When heartbeat sync dropped below threshold, the secondary server would wait exactly 24 hours. Then it would stop verifying. No alerts, no red flags. Just quiet, silent failure. Because the problem with killing the safety net isn't that it snaps right away. It's that you don't realize you needed it until you're halfway through the freefall. Colby turned toward the bay door, tossing a final line over his shoulder. Get ready for a leaner future, folks. I zipped up my laptop bag, slung it over my shoulder, and walked out without a word. Not because I didn't have anything to say, but because I'd already said everything I needed to. In code, in policy, in backups he didn't even know existed. Let the clock run. Let the countdown start. The shop still looked normal, but the heartbeat was gone. I didn't go back to my desk. I went straight to legal. They were tucked in the back wing, 2 doors down from accounting. Beige walls, bad lighting, and always too quiet. I stepped into Dana's office without knocking. She looked up, blinked, then smiled. Monica, what's up? I'm invoking Clause 19B. Her face dropped like I'd hit a fire alarm. No hesitation? She asked. None. I pulled the printed form from my bag, already signed, time-stamped, and stapled to an internal memo. The clause had sat dormant for 8 years, a relic from a company merger where I'd fought to get protections built for system-critical staff. Never used, never needed, until now. Dana scanned it, then looked up. You really want to do this? I did it, you're just filing it. She didn't argue, didn't ask why. She knew. Everyone with half a brain knew. Give me 2 minutes, she said, already typing. While she worked, I watched the inbox icon on her screen light up with legal pings. I knew the routing protocol. The clause required 0 executive approval. It went straight to corporate legal and triggered 3 things. No non-compete enforcement, system access lockdown until board override, and full documentation of the resignation as a compliance issue tied to public undermining of technical operations. By the time she hit send, I could already hear the silence getting heavier down the hall. Dana looked back at me. They'll process it immediately. You wrote half this clause. Nobody's gonna challenge it. I nodded. I'm out. Do you want to tell anyone? No. I left the office with just my laptop bag and the printed confirmation. No speeches, no goodbyes, no thanks for everything send off. I walked through the diagnostics bay one last time. Samir looked up from under a chassis, saw the form in my hand, and didn't say a word. Just nodded once. Margot didn't even turn around. She already knew. Jacob glanced up from the console, eyes flicked to the paper, then back to the screen. Quiet understanding. No one stopped me. That was the difference between a team and a company. A team knew when something important was walking out the door. A company just watched the lights stay on and assumed everything was fine. I stepped outside into the heat, crossed the lot, and kept walking. No one followed. Inside, the systems were still humming. The heartbeat monitors were quiet. The dashboards were green, for now. But no one realized the brain was gone. The pathway still ran. The protocol still breathed. But the logic trees, the context, the override patterns, the escalation failsafes, all of it ran through structures no one else had touched in years. My structures. And now, they were locked behind a board key no one even remembered existed. I didn't leave them broken. I left them working. Just long enough to show what happened when they were left alone. Clause 19. B wasn't revenge. It was insurance. And now the shop was running full speed toward the wall, with nobody at the wheel. I sat in a corner booth at Copper Mug Cafe, 20 minutes from the shop, black coffee in hand, laptop closed, phone face down. The second I walked out, I told myself I was done. By noon the next day, the system started breaking. Not loud, not dramatic. Just quiet failures in all the places that counted. Samir hit the first wall. Beitu's engine test hung on a loop, stuck at 98%. No error, no log, no auto report. He rebooted the analyzer twice before calling Margot over. 15 minutes later, Jacob noticed the logs weren't syncing to Central. The timestamps were wrong, data entries missing. He checked the mainline console. Still green. Still fake. That's how it always starts. Nothing crashes, it just stops talking back. Margot tried to reroute diagnostics through the backup thread, only to find the access window locked behind a gray screen that read, Request Board Custody Override, System in Passive Lock. She stared at it for a solid 10 seconds before whispering, shit. Back at the front desk, the public dashboard blinked once, then crashed entirely. It stopped taking service requests, stopped logging inventory, stopped updating client portals. It was just gone. Black screen, no error code. Then the phone started ringing. A client from Scottsdale had his Bentley sitting mid-diagnostic, scheduled for showroom delivery that afternoon. The tech couldn't get the system to release the firmware sync. The car wouldn't start without it. Colby came down personally to reassure the client. I promise it's just a back-end refresh. Totally normal. The guy had a launch event at 4. He left in silence. In diagnostics, Jacob tried to trigger a rollback script. Locked. Margot attempted a manual reboot. Also locked. Samir pulled the network logs and finally said it out loud. We're shut out. Colby didn't understand any of it. Okay, so, where's the master reset? Let's just reboot the core and push a clean image. You guys have that, right? Margot shot him a look like she wanted to throw something. You removed the mirrored servers, remember? She said. That was the clean image. He held up his hands. Okay, well, let's not panic. We just need to recalibrate our optimization strategy. Jacob turned to him. Deadpan. What the hell does that even mean? Colby blinked. It means we need to find a way to restore operations with minimal friction. You don't know what's wrong, Margot said. I'm working on it. You don't know how to fix it. He looked around the room, suddenly realizing everyone was looking back with the same expression. That's when the emails started hitting my inbox. First one from Jacob. Subject, possible system corruption? Message, Monica, please, any insight? We're blocked everywhere. Then Margot. Subject, heartbeat timeout. Message, I don't know where else to check. Are we in fail-safe? Then Samir, short and desperate. Subject, need you. Message, please, it's bad. I didn't open them. I didn't even touch my keyboard. I sipped my coffee, watched the shop unravel in real time, and said nothing. A call came through. I flipped the phone over, saw the number, and let it ring out. Another came 5 minutes later. This one from HR ignored it. Then came a text from Colby. Systems in some kind of loop. Can you just walk me through the restart process? I laughed once, low and dry. You can't restart a brain you never understood. Outside the cafe window, Glendale kept moving. Cars honking, sun glaring off windshields, people walking dogs and buying groceries like it was any other Thursday. Inside the shop, they were running blind, and I knew exactly how many hours were left before the fail timer hit the next threshold. Every log, every sync, every override key, all of it was built with care, with structure, with fail-safes only I knew how to reinitialize, and none of it responded to panic. Colby had wanted cleaner, simpler, dumber. Now he had it. I took one more sip of coffee, silenced my phone, and slid it into my bag. Let the fire burn. The CEO stormed into ops looking like he'd just jogged across the desert. Mesh sneakers, gym shorts, company-branded hoodie soaked through. "What the hell is going on?" he barked. He wasn't asking. He was already pissed. Margot stood by the main console. Samir had his hands shoved deep in his pockets. Jacob leaned against the wall, arms crossed tight. No one spoke. Colby stepped forward like he still had some kind of authority. "We're handling a temporary systems hiccup," he said, smoothing down his polo. "There's a lag in diagnostics sync, probably just a conflict with the local registry. I've initiated a manual audit." The CEO looked at him like he was mold growing on drywall. "Save it. I want legal now." Dana came in 30 seconds later, printout in hand. She'd clearly been expecting this. She flipped to the top page and read loud enough for the whole room to hear. Monica Owens submitted formal resignation under Clause 19B, triggered full systems custody transfer. Lock is active until board override. All protocols comply with corporate continuity law. Colby's face cracked. "Wait, what? She can't just..." "She can," Dana said. And she did. "But she sabotaged?" "She didn't sabotage anything," Margot cut in. Her voice was low, steady. "She just stopped holding it up." The CEO turned to her. "Explain." "The systems aren't broken," Margot said. "They're in passive failure. The heartbeat verification is gone." Monica was the heartbeat. Jacob stepped forward. "No alerts means the mirrors are offline. We can't restore anything because Colby scrapped the secondaries." Colby tried to jump in. "We had too much redundancy. I streamlined." "You gutted the fail-safes," Samir said. "You killed the backup framework. I optimized the architecture. We needed to modernize." "You needed to listen," Margot snapped. "Instead, you mocked the one person who understood the system." The CEO looked at Dana. "And we can't get back in?" "Not without board clearance. The lockout language is ironclad. Monica helped write it during the merger." There was a pause, a long one. I imagined the moment clearly, the exact second it hit him. The CEO stood dead still, then let out a long, controlled breath. "Call the board." Colby paled. "That's not necessary. You're done speaking." The room shifted. You could feel it. Air thinning, center of gravity moving away from Colby like the floor had cracked beneath him. HR slid in from the hallway. She already had her tablet out. Didn't say a word, just started typing. Colby turned to her. "You're not serious. I've been here 3 months. I've improved team alignment, instituted efficiency protocols, rewritten the budget, and buried a functioning system under buzzwords," the CEO said. "You replaced architecture with slogans. I was modernizing. You were freelancing with a machine you couldn't understand." Dana cleared her throat. "Board meeting is scheduled in 20 minutes. "Move it to 10, the CEO said. "Pull Colby's access, revoke floor clearance, and notify CTO I want a post-mortem by EOD." Jacob turned back to his screen. Samir walked out without a word. Colby stood there blinking like he still didn't get it. "She trapped us." Margot looked him dead in the eyes. "Number she built the only net you had and walked away when you cut the ropes." He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. CTO entered quietly from the far door. He looked tired, saw the dead dashboards, saw Colby's posture, Dana's printout on the table, took one breath and muttered under it, "She didn't just leave. She designed the system to prove what she did every day." Nobody responded. They didn't have to. The CEO turned and walked out, calling for his assistant. CTO followed, shaking his head. HR touched Colby's elbow, voice low. "Let's go." And just like that, the peacock lost his perch. I sat at gate C21 with a one-way ticket to Austin, black coffee in one hand, phone in the other. No checked bags, just my backpack, my laptop, and a list of names I'd never work under again. The call came in just after boarding started. Unknown number, no voicemail. I answered. "Monica?" "Hey, name's Darren. I'm CTO over at Apex Velocity Racing. I leaned back in the plastic chair. Okay, we got your name from a back-end policy log. Public audit from your old shop's compliance trail. That was clean work. Didn't know people read those. We do. We read everything. He wasn't rushing, voice steady, confident without trying. I listened. We've been watching that place burn for 12 hours, he said. We saw the structure collapse in real time, and we know exactly who kept it standing before it did. I stayed quiet. Let him keep going. We're building out full-spectrum diagnostics for our performance fleet. 5 tracks, 18 builds, all custom. I don't need a manager. Hey, I need a brain. Still no pitch, just facts. I'm offering full infrastructure control from the ground up. No layers, no interference. Build it like you never had to explain it to anyone. My heart didn't skip, but it finally slowed. And no interview, he added. We already know. I looked down at my ticket. The boarding line was thinning out. Why now? I asked. Because someone finally proved what we always suspected. The person holding the system together doesn't get credit until they walk out. He paused. Don't build it for us. Build it when we earn it. I exhaled, slow. All right, I said. We ended the call with no contract, no back and forth, just a clear runway. As I slipped the phone into my jacket, a message lit up across the screen. From CEO, Prescott Performance Subject, let's fix this. Message, we'll pay whatever you ask. I stared at it for a second, then powered off the phone. The agent scanned my ticket, nodded me through. I walked down the jet bridge without looking back. Somewhere behind me, the shop was still blinking red. Dashboards dark, alerts silent. The boardroom would be full of excuses and finger pointing. But no one could fake my fingerprint.